I had so much stuff left over from the Care Bears junk journal that I did that I thought I would do an alternative cover and actually put together another one. And actually, this one I plan to give away to my viewers. So I took another book, a Care Bears book that I had not used because it came slightly different size. This is a vintage book. I probably need to clean this up a little bit. And I cut the insides off. So I've cut the little spine out of the book and I have the gut sitting aside. Then I took some chipboard and I made a spine. I figured out kind of where my about 2.5-inch spine based on the thickness of the signatures that are going in here. And so 2.5 inches was about what I am expecting this to be. I want it to be super flexible and lay flat, so I have a little extra space in that capability. So that's where that's going to work. And we're going to do a fabric. So I have some heart fabric. I'm going to use that as to connect my two pieces to my spine. It'll okay. I'm going to use some Aleene's Fabric Fusion permanent adhesive. Should dry clear. Let's hope. I'm going to squirt this on and then I'm going to actually spread this out because I don't want those big gloopy spots that stick through or kind of end up going through the fabric. So I am going to make sure that this is good and coated on here. And then lay that somewhere where it's not going to stick to something. I probably should have ironed this, but that's okay. I want to make sure that I have it kind of centered. I have figured out like what is double my length. So as far as fabric is concerned, I'm going to want to be able to fold it over completely and hide that spine in a sandwich. So the first step is, of course, to get this bad boy on here relatively centered. See, this was the part I was talking about where the glue, if you don't spread it out, it kind of comes through. Hopefully that glue dries clear and that we don't have an issue. Now, before we fold it over, then we have to take our two spines. So here is, I obviously don't want it to be this big because I don't want it to cover up the graphics completely. So this I'm not so worried about it because I'll end up covering the are going to be straight. Okay. I don't want to cover over the graphic. So I know I need about 1/8 of an inch. Shoot, I made that too tall. I didn't measure. Just faded on the thickness of this particular chipboard because it is extra thick, but I'm going to go with it. Only because I think that the thickness will actually help me make that nice curve that I want. And looks fine. Okay. Okay, so then the other thing that I want is to make sure that I don't, again, you probably should have planned this out before. Where out do I want it to go? I don't want it to cover up any more than that. I need enough of a overlap that it's good and secure, but not so much. You do want a gap so that your fold folds well. So I'm just going to use the scissor guide here. You do that before you start chopping stuff would be really ideal. Make sure you have your fabric measured and not terrible. You're going to go up and measure the exact same. Now, we are going to also, let's see, okay, front, that's the back, that's the front, and straight, really, that's okay, I think it'll be in the being covered up. Okay. It's going on my words, though. I'm gonna take this down just a little bit further. I really don't want to cover up my words. And because I was really not planning before you glue it. This turned out right. Okay. I am going to put a little glue on here. I should put it on here instead. Be better. Sugar. It doesn't glue itself to the thing. I don't accidentally glue it down the table. I will end up going over all of this to make sure it's good and sealed down. But that just kind of gets me started. Where's my... Okay, yeah. That's good. Okay. And then glue the top down first. Here. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, I'll let that dry really, really good. Make sure that it's good and stuck down all around. That's what it's going to look like on the outside. Nice wide cover there. Nice wide spine. And go. So I'm going to set this aside. That's what it's basically going to look like on the outside. Really cool. Okay, again, I had just so much stuff left over that I am going to be building out this. Okay, I've got all this put together. It's been the glue has dried on here. We're good to go there, so that's all good to go. There's the outside cover that I made last. Everything's great, you know, as far as that's concerned. I've marked out, I'm going to do 2 longs and a short because I think that gives us a good purchase on the inside. So you can kind of see I've marked out where my 3 signatures are going to go. So I just need to poke holes. Here are the 3 signatures. I went ahead and took watercolor paper and did some stenciling on top of the watercolor paper. I sewed in a lot of extra embellishments on the sides. I've got, of course, some of the papers left over from the other one that I didn't use, so those are fun. We've got some fold outs ready to go. These are actual book pages from this book that had some cute graphics on them. Writing paper, again, here's another one of those papers that I stenciled, watercolor paper. I sewed on some pockets using the leftover fabric. Of course, you've got some blank page, some actual pages left over, from my other book. So that's all good to go. So there's the first signature. Fun stuff going on there. All right, so then the second signature, same way. I did leave some of the pages kind of blank with no sewing or anything on, so you guys can embellish bits and pieces of the other book that I had created. Again, there's part of the other book, another page from this book thrown in, blank pages and some sewn pages. Again, some of the sides I just left blank. So we do a complete flip through here, and then I'm going to, here's another one, the belly band. Okay, so there's that one, and on this one I again sewed on a pocket. Here's the third signature. There is two pockets here sewn on with that same fabric that's on the outside. One of my painted papers with a fold down envelope, one of the other book pages with some of the, bits and pieces from there. Again, this is a spread from this particular book that I'm using, one of the napkins, book page. I left a little bit of a interesting belly band with some trim of the velvet trim, which is super fun. Again, stenciled on, pages from the other book, so on and so forth. Fun stuff, glued in a couple of places from the other book that I didn't end up using. Here's another one, just another embellishment down the side. I put the velvet, feels so good. Anyway, that's all together in one spot. Lots of fun stuff in an area for you to glue down on top of. So all of these I'm going to stitch in. I'm not going to use the grommets this time because the grommets I don't think they're going to hold up long term, but I am going to use the same thread, what looks like friendship bracelet for here as well. I think I'm going to use the pink one, or should I use a contrast? Let's look at the cover and see what goes best with the cover. I like the fact that this contrasts. Then this one completely, or should we do 3 different ones? Interesting. I think I'm going to go with the one that disappears a little bit better. So go with the pink one on all 3, just so it's not completely obvious in case somebody doesn't love it. But I think that one goes best with this particular. I am going to throw in to this giveaway a bunch of leftover stuff. So I'll throw in some additional threads and pages and stickers and all kinds of embellishments into this giveaway. So you can design your own book, essentially. All I'm going to do is pull this together into the book itself, and then we'll provide an entire packet of stuff, which I will show you at the end. But let me get to sewing this in here, and then we'll go on to the next step. Just in case you want to see how I do this, I take it all, and I've marked my holes already and where everything is going to go, and I'm going to puncture all the way through. I put a piece of cardboard on the other side, and I will poke all my holes and then turn it over and poke them back the other way, so they're fully poked through. We've got essentially 6 holes here, top and bottom of each area. Again, I already marked them to make sure that they're kind of centered. There is plenty of extra room in this particular journal. I made it extra wide, so that way there's plenty of room to add things to here as you go. I did plan for that this time because I don't think I did a good enough job planning for that on the last one, because she was chunky and she wasn't even part way done. So, okay, I've got all my holes marked out and then punched through from the outside as well and made them bigger, right? So then I've just marked on my on my ruler here where my holes are at with some tape so that I can go through and do the whole entire packet. So I want to kind of stagger my pages so it gives a little bit more interest. So here's my signature, and I want to kind of stagger the pages a little bit to give it just a little bit more interest. This one's, you know, maybe we center this one instead, things of that nature. Does this one need to be centered? Maybe. This one can be at the bottom, and so on and so forth, right? So once I've got them all kind of figured out where it's going to go, actually, I'm going to stagger that completely. Okay, I'm going to clip these together so they're not going to move on me, because what I'd like to try and do is actually do this all in one fell swoop. I'm going to stick the cardboard again underneath my edge, figure out where my lines are at, and really the clip just holds everything together. So from the bottom edge of here, I'm going to then mark out kind of where my holes need to go, and then we'll get so here this mark, top end is here, 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 and again lining up with where it is on my actual spine. So then I can hopefully go through the entire packet in one fell swoop rather than having to do them individual pages. So there are my holes. Good to go on that. They're not quite right side, so again, why we make sure that we line everything up really good. So I will work on fixing that. With the next one, I think we'll be okay. But we need to make sure that I hit the holes dead on the next one. Okay. So I'll leave that together. These clippies, by the way, are phenomenal. They come in a pack of, I think, of 12. Definitely recommend getting some. Okay, same with this one. This packet, we're going to stagger our pages. So figure out kind of where your center page is at, and then figure out kind of how you want to stagger your pages before, you know, some at the top, because the pages aren't all the same height. You know, kind of where do you want these to fall in line at? And then we're going to make sure that we've got it all really good. Our good stack here, and clippy it. Grab a couple more clips. Clippy it all together. Whoops. So I don't want it to move. Part of the reason. Okay. All right. So now I've got the stack. Make sure we go through the center of the stack. So I think I'm going to actually flip it over. Make sure that I go through the center of the stack this time rather than being off kilter. So again, we will poke our holes all the way through. Pages. Okay, we got the stack. Oops. Well, that went through. Oh, I did. Okay. Lost my stack here. Figure that out once some of the pages on the inside are a little shorter. That's okay. I think it'll be all right. Just make sure that those all line up where we put the holes when we go back through and sew it together. Okay, on to the next one, and then I will get to sewing, and I will meet you back here in just a minute. Okay, quick tip. When sewing something that's this thick, like this multi-strand rope, or, you know, it's difficult to find a needle that's going to be big enough for this to fit through. I was infinitely frustrated with this process last time because none of these needle heads are quite wide enough to fit something this thick through it. The one that is ginormous and way too big to fit through the holes. So what I ended up doing on something this thick, this is made of multiple strands. And so what I did was I actually took the strands apart down to about 1 inch and then only threaded, because you just need enough in the needle to be able to keep the thread on the needle as you poke through. and it was wildly frustrating. My needle kept falling off. It was annoying trying, because it just does not fit through, and I did not have, well, the one needle that I think that's big enough that this would fit through is just a ginormous needle and way too big. It'll make the holes too big. So I actually took this apart. So I had the multiple strands, right, and took half of them and threaded through the needle, just so I had enough stuff stuck through the needle to hold it on. Of course, this, because again, this is extra annoying. This is a 4-strand, and each one of the strands is like a full embroidery floss, 6-strand embroidery floss, as you would expect with a friendship bracelet, right? And so again, it was maddeningly frustrating and will not all fit through the hole of the thing. So if you can get half of it through, that gives you enough on here to be able to fold down and hold on to it. I tried a variety of different ways, but the thread is, too wimpy to go on its own. It's not like a waxed thread or anything like that, so that gives you enough holding on to the thread so that you can actually get through there. I tried tying it on, and that then made the knot too big that it wouldn't go through the holes, and so on and so forth. So that's just something I learned along the way is, I just need enough on there to hold it onto the needle while I do what I'm doing, while I'm poking things through. So good tip, all in all. Another thing that I've been figuring out is that I start from the back of the book and work my way forward. Double check and make sure that your pages are all facing upward and that none of your writing and images are upside down before you get started. But then I just find my middle in general and my top hole, right? And I'm going to come, I go about twice as long as the book in the thread and then cut it off. My scissors go. You'll end up with extra left over, but okay. So I got my needle threaded. I'm going to go up through the top hole. Make sure I've got all of my pages on my needle first. This one doesn't have a top hole. This one is at the top. That one's not. Right. I got all my pages, and I go through my first hole. Right. Take it through all your thread all the way through all your pages, and you might have to move them like one page at a time so as not and gently get your thread through here. Again, because this thread is so thick, it can start to rip the pages like there, and it might get stuck on some of these. So again, once you kind of get this first couple through, then it'll pull easily. And I just leave myself a tail, right? And I'm going to go down through the first hole of my book, right? Okay. And pull that through the top hole. It'll go through the hole. And again, the thickness of this thread is significant. And this is getting stuck. Where are you getting stuck? It's the thickness of the thread not wanting to go through the hole. So that might be an issue. Okay. Might have to, pull to get it through there, because this thread again is super thick, so it's just bunched up a little bit there. Okay, I'm going to take it back through the spine on the second hole of my third signature, where my third signature is going. And again, this is why I made these holes. If these holes are not quite big enough with your awl, these holes are not quite big enough where the awl poked through, push your awl graduates, push it through there a little bit and make that hole bigger. Again, made our hole a little bit bigger, so we should be able to pull that thread through there, the needle and all. You can obviously use a thinner. Just make sure that's straight on the other side. You can obviously use a thinner, string, or the waxed thread is thick enough that it holds really well. The normal bookbinding thread has a wax coating on it, which is good. I just liked the idea because, again, this is 80s kind of themed Care Bears, having the what looks like a friendship bracelet thread. And obviously, if I had made the friendship bracelets, they would have been a lot thicker. And so that was definitely something that was slightly concerning. Okay, so as you're going back through, you just want to thread your pieces onto through your holes. And I just kind of wiggle it on and find, I might get through a couple of them and then pull my thread through just a couple pieces, you know what I mean? Because it gets stuck. Again, because this thread is so thick, it might need you to go through and kind of finagle it through the holes of the pages gently so as not to rip those holes, and you don't want your pages to rip open any further. Papers are relatively thick. I want them, we can tighten it up once we get all of the pages on and all of the holes, then we'll go through and tighten up, where it sits and things like that, so as not to cause, any major issues. Okay, so that is all the way through all of those on the second hole. And again, that's why I leave a little bit of extra space here so as not to let those bad boys slide off up here. Okay, so now the next one's got to go down through the next hole. And so we basically do the same thing. An even number of holes will get you coming back up in the final hole in the center. So just kind of bear that in mind when you're putting in number of holes. An even number is probably better with these pages. And again, it doesn't matter at this point because once we get this completely through all the holes and everything will tighten up the actual book. We'll go through here and I'll show you how to do that. And like I said, don't worry about it being loose at this point because that little bit of extra looseness is actually going to help you finagle the papers on. And at the very end, before we tie it, we'll tighten all the strings up and make sure they're all good and tight. And that page is good and tight before we tie it. Now that we have all the parts and pieces, as I mentioned, now we go through and we start to tighten, our pages onto the various different pieces here. And we can pull, everything tighter, as we go. And so I will just pull this through, tighten this way, so on and so forth, pulling from the back. To make this all good and tight against, because I want my signature in there good and tight, right? And that's also why I give myself some extra room so I can finagle. But outside is good and tight, right through the holes. I might go in here, since I didn't use grommets or anything, and seal these holes after the fact. I was going to do it beforehand, but I'm glad I didn't because I want to make sure this is good and tight on here, which it appears to be. So that's good and tight on here. And then to finish it off, I've just been, coming through here and tying this and then leaving my strings loose. You could do the crisscross stuff on the outside too, go back down through your holes and all of that jazz. And then I just leave my strings, obviously I'll cut off the part that I shoot all over. And just leave my strings hanging because you can tie something to them or whatever the case may be. So there's our first signature. First signature is the back. I always work back forward. I don't know that it really matters, but it's just how I've kind of started doing it. And it works for me. Again, make sure before you sew these in here that all your pages are headed in the right direction. If they have text or images on there, because it would be really frustrating to get to this point and realize you sewed something in upside down. That you did it the way you wanted it. But yeah. Okay. So that's the first one that's in there. And then we go on and we do the others. Alrighty, she is all done and ready to go. Everything has been stitched in. So here's the spine as it stands. There are 3 signatures. It lays good and flat, as flat as it can at the moment. I left the inside cover because it had really cute graphics. And as I mentioned, everything has been stuck in here ready to go and be decorated. It did flip a little bit, but I've tied off each signature, and there's plenty of extra room in the gusset as these get chunky to add additional things in here. They're just tied in, so if you wanted to rearrange or whatever the pages, you can just untie there. There's plenty of extra string if you want to make an adjustment to some of the things that are in here, but they have all been stuck in. So I am really excited to send this beauty out into the world and see what someone else can do and create with it. As I mentioned, flipping through, it has beautiful graphics on the end. She is chunky, but not, whoops, I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but there's plenty of extra room in this particular book to do quite a bit of stuff in there and add to it. So I'm doing this as a giveaway, as I mentioned, because I had a lot of extra stuff left over from the version that I did for my sister for her birthday. And so in addition to the book itself with that's already been put together, I am sending you a care package to the lucky recipient of this book. Some extra fabric that I have that goes with, as well as some trims that you can add in, both the rainbow trim that you saw on the other book, as well as some friendship bracelet trim. So that's going to go in with this. I am going to send, I didn't end up using these cute little tabs with my sister's book, so I'm going to send these off into the world. They are super adorable little tabs. I got online, I think through a shop in Korea and on Etsy. Anyway, so those are going to be included in this, as well as vintage old stock. These are playing cards from a game that are super adorable. They each have really cute original graphics on there. So I'm sending you a set of those, as well as a roll of Care Bear stickers. So each one seems to be a set of Care Bears together. Right, so we'll include that. And then there's just a whole host of other things that I'm going to throw in. Some stickers that came in the pack of stuff that I bought from the supplier in Korea. So those I'm going to put in. I made some of these little rosettes out of a variety of different papers that I included in my sister's one. So I'm going to throw those in there. I've got some envelopes. Cloud envelopes, as well as envelopes with graphics. Here's another vintage old new stock. I'm going to throw her in there, as well as the pieces, the leftover pieces from my variety, the props piece that came that was Care Bear themed. I have some vintage tags or tags that I've created, and I'm going to throw those in. So there's tags, including one that has a magnet built in. That clips onto the outside edge. Here's another one that's an edge piece. There's a bunch of, and I will fussy cut these so they're organized, but the badges for the fronts of our Care Bears and some additional graphics. I will fussy cut that one. I have a whole bunch of these belly bands that I created that have sayings on them that I'm going to send with. So we'll include those. Here's some more little cutouts that I will include as part of this. Again, move those out of the way. We have a bunch of sayings that were printed on to a variety of papers that I'm going to, and they're all kind of Care Bear sayings, right? I have those in both in colors. I have a few little bits and bobs and leftover pieces from there, as well as ones that are on vellum. That have been printed on vellum. So I'm going to throw those in. I didn't end up using those in my sister's version, so I'm going to throw those in. Here's another piece of paper. We've got some more belly bands, lined paper. I will throw in probably a few more sheets of that. That hearts go in there, as well as then the full sheets of words, some different graphics, some pieces that were put together specifically with this in mind that I didn't end up using. Here's another full sheet of Care Bear sayings, some graphics that I printed out to go with this, as well as graphics that came with one of the other books that I had. There are Care Bear themes and some book sheets out of this actual book that I didn't end up including, and some of the more of those Care Bears napkins and full sheet stickers. So you're getting all of this as part of this giveaway. In order to be entered into the drawing for the giveaway, you'll have to either go down into the notes. There's a link to a Google Sheet where you can sign up. And then also, or you can go to my website, which I will add the link in the bottom, and sign up there for our newsletter. There is a giveaway or a free guide when you sign up. I don't spam anybody. I'm not selling your information, but you will need to give me your email address so that way I can contact you in order to do the drawing. So I'm going to collect everyone who either signs up through the Google Sheet or on our webpage through the month of June of 2025. Throughout the month of June, anyone who signs up will be entered into the drawing, and then I'll do a YouTube short of me actually doing the drawing at the end of the month, and to do the giveaway. So I'm super excited. This giant care package of stuff is going out to hopefully somebody who will thoroughly enjoy the Care Bears book process, junk journal process. So I look forward to seeing what the winner creates. And yeah, it's super exciting. So you're gonna, like I said, this entire care package of book and all of this fun stuff is part of this giveaway. So look forward to being able to send this out. I will box it up. And I'm really excited to see what you guys create, or the lucky winner creates. Have a great rest of your day.